Everyone loves interfaces, right? Buttons, drop-downs, menu bars, sexy stuff. Well, it may not be the most exciting thing in the world, but in order to get started creating cool stuff in Adobe After Effects, we first need to know how the interface is laid out and where we can find all of the tools that we need. So let's fire up Adobe After Effects and start exploring the interface that we will be staring at for the remainder of this course. When you first launch Adobe After Effects, you may or may not be greeted by a startup screen, depending on which version of After Effects you are running. If you do end up getting a startup screen, simply click that New Project button and you should end up on an interface that looks pretty similar to what I've got here. Adobe After Effects does have quite a number of different panels, but don't worry, they're all actually pretty straightforward. But let's start at the top. At the very top, you will find the very familiar main menu bar, and this is where you go if you want to open or save your projects, perform edit operation, work with compositions, which are, as I mentioned, the containers for your actual effects. You can work with layers, which are the visual elements that you place inside a composition. Again, we'll get to that later. And the reason everything is disabled in here, as well as in our composition tab, is because we haven't created one just yet. Further to the right, you will find all of your effects. And again, everything's grayed out because we're not in a composition yet. Then there's the animation tab for dealing with animations, keyframes, and tracking and all sorts of more advanced features. View allows you to enable guides and grids and snap things, zoom in and out. And then you have the window option where you can actually enable or disable different tabs that you see in your interface. Everything that's ticked right now is what's visible on the interface. And if you're ever missing a tab during a tutorial and you can't find what people are referring to, make sure you come up into your window and make sure that that particular tab is enabled. Otherwise, you will not be able to see it. But other than that, there's nothing special about this main menu. Now, just under the main menu, you will find all of the tools that you have available for working with the visual elements in your composition. Right now, everything's grayed out because we haven't created a composition yet. We haven't even imported any footage. However, just for the purpose of being able to go through the interface, let's quickly create a composition. And for that, over on the left-hand side, you will find the project panel. The project panel contains all of the media files that you've imported in your project. It'll also include some information around your currently selected file, which we'll get to in the next part. For now, you want to go into your project panel. And again, if you can't see this, make sure you go to Window and enable your project panel. So in the project panel, which should be on the left-hand side, go to the very bottom and you'll find a few icons here. And there's like a little picture frame icon. And this says to create a new composition. Simply click on that. This is going to pop open the new composition dialog. And again, we're going to go through this in much more detail in the following lesson. For now, simply hit OK. And because we've now created a composition in our project, all of the tools just below the main menu bar are now enabled. Now, what tools you have available may differ slightly depending on which version of Adobe After Effects you're using, but for this course, all of the tools you will need to follow along will be available, even if you're using a pretty old version of Adobe After Effects like CS3 or even before that. So don't worry about that. So that's where you will find all of the tools. Now, at the bottom of the interface, you will find the timeline panel. In here, it says Comp 1 right now because we've created a new composition called Comp 1. And down here, we're actually in that composition. Over on the left-hand side, you will see all of the layers. Right now, we have no layers. We haven't added any footage, any images or any graphics, anything into this container, into this composition. So there's nothing in here yet. And over on the right-hand side, you have a timeline and this little indicator here. You can click and drag that around. So this is essentially scrubbing through the timeline. Right now, absolutely nothing happens. You just have a black preview screen because, again, we haven't imported anything. We haven't created any effects just yet. That obviously brings me to the preview window, which should usually be sitting right in the middle of the interface. You can zoom in and out of this view by scrolling on your mouse wheel up or down. You also have a whole bunch of controls just below the preview window. Over on the left-hand side, for example, you can zoom in and out. So I can say fit up to 100%, which will fit the previous screen into my interface. And then there's a whole bunch of other controls, which you don't really need to worry about too much for now. We'll probably be touching on some of these throughout this course. Much more important, over on the right-hand side, you should find the Effects and Presets panel. And this is where you will find all of the effects that are available to you in Adobe After Effects. My list, again, is a little bit longer because I have a few plugins installed that you may not have. But in here, you can find and apply
all of the effects that are available for you to build your visual effects or motion graphics. You may notice that this panel actually contains multiple tabs, so there's libraries in here, which are my Creative Cloud libraries. Over on the right hand side, under this little arrow, you might find some additional tabs, but unfortunately mine are off the recording area. Now, the last important panel, just above your effects and presets or your libraries and all the other little things, is the preview panel. In here, you can play back your composition. And the cool thing, if you come down to the bottom of the panel and hover your mouse right over the separator between the preview window and the effects and presets, if you pull this down, this may reveal a whole bunch of additional options for controlling how preview and playback works in Adobe After Effects. Now, some of these options may be different for you, because I know a lot of these were introduced in Adobe After Effects CC going forward, but there should be a few additional options here that you can check out if you so wish. But let me just drag that back up. And finally, if you accidentally close any of these panels, for example, I could right click onto effects and presets, I can close this panel. Maybe I accidentally also close my composition panel down here at the bottom. And now I'm kind of stuck and I want to reset this to where it started. For that, you can simply come up into your main menu under Window, go into Workspace, select Reset Standard to Saved Layout, and this will reset the interface to Adobe After Effects to where you started. So hopefully this gave you a quick overview of the interface of Adobe After Effects. Now let's get to something a little bit more exciting in the next lesson.